So good afternoon, everyone. Join us for our special project webinar this afternoon. This is for Aldwick Road in BOGNOR REGIS from Target 5. So joined today by Tina Wenham from Target 5. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hope everybody's well.
Yes, and you're sort of parked up there in between visiting sites and meetings.
Yeah, on my way back from Littlehampton and Bognor towards the Brighton direction. I was in Brighton this morning, Littlehampton this afternoon, then Bognor. Now I'm back again. So halfway back, thought I'd find a quiet corner in the countryside somewhere.
Good. You're setting a fast pace, so thanks for taking the time to jump on and do a few Q&As on this one. I certainly appreciate that.
No worries at all.
And then also joined here by Dal Ray as our investor portfolio manager. Good afternoon, Dal.
Good afternoon. Hi, everyone.
Brilliant. And you'll be looking after the Q&A for today. So getting straight into it, this is a project webinar, as we call it, which is just specifically focused on the Aldwick Road project, which is currently live for investment on our platform. Last time I checked, it was something like 72 or 73% funded. And we said we'd do this project webinar today because it was just some questions coming in, and it's great then to get the fundraiser, in this case Tina, on the line live, so potential investors can engage, ask questions, and it's a good way of just getting questions answered. So before we go straight over to Tina, it's important that we explain, as a platform, we're hosting this call today. Leo Crowdfunding is an equity property crowdfunding platform. I'm the CEO of the platform, and it says along the bottom there, it's just important to note that Leo Crowdfunding, you can see there our FRN number, we have an FCA number, you'll see us on the register, but we are an appointed representative of a company called Sharon Limited, which is authorized and regulated by the FCA. So you can read our risk warnings, etc. there. So just to highlight that before moving on. So today's program, we're going to run through nice and quick sort of bullet points, the fundraiser, the deal, the summary of the financials, a bit more about the project, the location, talk about the equity offer document, and of course leave time for Q&A. So if you have questions, please put it into the Q&A function. Don't use the chat box, use the Q&A, and that means then we can actually sort of copy those and put them onto the forum where other investors can have a look at them. And Dal will be running the Q&A. So if you put your question in there, Dal will read it out. This is a recorded call, so we don't read out people's names just in case they want to be anonymous, but we'll certainly ask your question to Tina. So let's really get straight into it. So Tina, you want to just kick off a bit about who exactly is Target 5, who are the key people in the business?
Yeah, Target 5 is myself and Andy Babem, my business partner. We have collectively over 40 years experience in the property industry. We are a property sourcing, developing and lettings business. We've got a lettings arm, separate business, but together we run those with a really strong team of project managers and sourcers and administrators and goodness knows what around us to allow us to strategically source below market value and off market properties for development in the Sussex area.
Okay, and you've done, it says here, around about 350 projects within yourself and Andy. So yeah, you've earned the stripes. You've earned the stripes of being a property developer.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it does kind of make me feel a little bit exhausted, but you kind of just push through and you get them done. And I think actually it's probably over 400 now for ourselves and alongside clients with JVs or through crowdfunding or various other ways of doing it. So yeah, lots of experience.
Good. And of course, you've actually had 2 successful raises on our platform. One of those is actually paid back to the investors. You've managed to sort of buy their shares back, redeem their shares at the target ROI. So both of those have obviously been very good. And how did you find that process of engaging with investors through a platform?
Great. I mean, it was I think you know, there were learnings for everything that you do, and it was really successful. The aim was achieved, and I hope that all of the investors felt that we gave good value, if you liked, for their investment, and that they were that they learned something and that they got something from it that wasn't just their return on investment as well. I certainly feel like we did, so that hopefully that was reciprocated, and yeah, allowed us to do a couple of projects that maybe we wouldn't have been able to do, so that's positive as well. So
yeah, I think Dal alluded to earlier about the site visit, that I know he was on a site visit down, and they're always very educational and beneficial to investors, where you actually meet them on site, walk them through the project like quite early on, which is great to see it in that sort of state of disrepair, and then obviously you walk through at the end and see that the change you've made. So those things are all very very beneficial. So this project, then, to take us through the high levels of the Aldwick project.
Yeah, so this was brought to us pre-market from a local agent that we work with quite closely, a local auction agent. It was highlighted to us as it meets our very specific selection criteria. We have a very specific selection process. It has to be large in size, below market value, in core area close to local amenities, and that will have a high rental yield. This is a commercial building with a existing HMO above, and it has oodles of space. I mean, it is like the TARDIS in there. Used to be a marine shop or an aquarium shop or something on the ground floor, and it just goes on and on and on at the back. There's quite a lot of space at the back in the garden as well. And yeah, we've sort of highlighted it as an opportunity for a high yielding HMO return, targeting emergency housing or supported living for the end user on this, right in the centre of Bognor. So yeah.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. And again, just remind the attendees, if you have any questions, stick it in the Q&A, and we'll be able to put those questions to Tina. So that's kind of the high level overview where the project, the minimum investment in the project is £100, and that effectively buys one share. And we'll talk at the end about where it's at currently. The projected ROI on this is 15%. Probably will be done in around about 10 months, but we've allowed 12 months just to give you a bit of fat. So we'll call it a 12-month project. That's really the headline figures. So yeah, explain a bit more about the actual location. We always say location is the key things in property. So where is this situated?
So Bognor is sort of to west, a seaside destination town, popular with holiday lets, staycation. Those that are familiar with it will know that it has a large Butlins, which is just immediately around the corner, which is a high density employer, as well as attracting lots of tourists to the area, which is of course one of the beauties of this location. It's right on the seafront. You literally can almost see the seafront. There is a bit of a bend to the road, so you can't, but if it was on the other side of the road, directly opposite, you'd be able to see the sea. But it's a really bustling little town. It's got a really good high street with lots of local amenities in it. And the other thing that really attracted us to looking in this area, and we're looking more and more in this area, we've actually got another one just around the corner, is that it's very high density for employment. So there's some factories on the outskirts. There are some very large employers locally, which means that there are lots of people who need shared accommodation for affordability reasons. So it's a really good spot for our core strategy. Yeah,
and those that know me and know my passion for football, you'll not be surprised to see Bognor Regis Town Football Club featuring prominently in the map. So that's how I reference towns and cities: is where's the football club, and then where's the property in relation to the football club. So,
I wouldn't hold much credence to Bognor FC, but you know, but equally, You know, mine's pubs. If I guide myself via pubs. So if yours is football, then that tells us everything we need to know about us, right?
Exactly. Dal's a smile on his face there. We're going to put him on the spot and see which he prefers. But there we are. So in terms then of the deal overview, just to talk us through the sort of how you've structured the deal and then the equity slice that you're using.
Yes, so the project is going to be refurbishing the existing HMO. It's currently a 5-bedroom with some clever with 1 bathroom. With some reconfiguration, we can make it a 6-bed, 6-bathroom HMO by going into the attic. The raise amount will go towards the refurb costs for that. Depending on how much we raise, it may well do all of it. And it's sort of a phased development in that the ground floor that is currently commercial, we're going to get sort of the second phase of the development will be a flat on that ground floor and retaining commercial at the front. Plan is to get the commercial front element done very quickly, let out and returning some money as well, and then get this HMO on the first and second floor refurbed and rented out while we do phase 2. So and then the plan is to sell the whole unit off once rented. We've got a supported living provider, got 2 supported living providers interested in it, one being a mental health supported living provider. There's quite a large mental health hospital nearby that is supporting people moving out of sort of hospitalisation and into integration into the community, which is something very close to my heart. But, you know, part of mine and Andy's core strategy moving forward is to provide sort of supported community living if we can in some way, and this sort of ticks all of those boxes as well. But not only that, having a pre-let, I use that term loosely because we don't actually have a signed lease yet, is very good for looking at our end value, because it allows us to be a bit more assured on that end value. We always do quite a lot of research around the end GDV value anyway, but it does allow us to be a little bit more confirmed in that area if people are interested in letting it for the figures that we are hoping for, which is around about £750 a room in that area.
Yeah, and I think the whole aspect of, you know, the social housing for helping those that maybe need, you know, accommodation in the given area. I think that's something that a number of investors who have invested so far in the project have been motivated by. They like to see developers who, you know, have that kind of social conscience aspect of what they do, and I think it's really cool that you can do a project like this and also provide, you know, sort of social emergency housing to meet a need that is obviously so prevalent right across our country at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's got to make commercial sense, otherwise it's not possible to do it and to continue to do it. And ultimately, we want to continue to do it so that we can do more of it. And for those that don't know, Andy and I are both trustees on a local homeless charity called Night Support, which is based in Brighton. And one of our long-term goals is to be able to actually gift a unit to that charity. That's easier said than done, I might point out. But so we do really have that kind of core values of giving back to the community, but it has to make commercial sense, because otherwise you can't continue to provide that. And there is a big push from local government to provide funding for accommodation for any kind of supported living. And the other nice thing about this building is that the ground floor unit lends itself beautifully to disabled access, and there are very few shared accommodations that offer that, and there's a real need for it. Yeah,
that's a really good point on that. So moving on then to the financials, and again, remind everyone, want to put anything in the Q&A. There's a great chance to ask questions directly to Tina. Dal, you can maybe have a look at the forums, and there may have been some questions in the forums or questions that you've had from the investors you've spoken to. You've obviously had lots of conversation with investors, so if there's any key questions that have maybe come up regularly in your conversations, then you can put those to Tina. So yeah, in terms of financial summary, Tina, do you want to just run through kind of the main numbers on the right?
Yep. So the GDV, which is the total gross development value, is targeted at 1.2 million. That's a combined total for the whole building, commercial, ground floor flat, and HMO above. We haven't put a net rental income in there because we do actually plan to sell it, so we don't intend on having any physical income to add to our development value overall. Project costs coming in at 713,348.30. Funding at 141 and a bit. So a profit there of 315. Obviously, all of us have to pay tax on money we own. So unfortunately, and then there's a net profit there, as you can see. So yeah, that's
okay. And so just for anyone who's not really clear on how the equity works into a crowdfunding deal, the investors are purchasing shares in the SPV that owns the asset. Shares, you can see there, are priced at £100. So there'll be 2,000 shares made available to crowd investors, because in theory, this 200,000 is the maximum equity raise that can go into this deal, 100,000 being the minimum. And then there's a projected return of 15%, which, because it's a 12-month project, is per annum, but it's 15% for the project. And if it comes in a bit earlier than 12 months, then that's great. If it ends up being a month over, well, it is 15%. So that's normally expressed then as a percentage of forecasted net profit. So effectively, if the whole 200,000 was invested, then those crowd investors would own 11.19% of the SPV. So hopefully that was pretty clear as to how that works. So you can see there, effectively, equity shares have been bought for 200,000 in total, and then all going well with the project, then obviously the shares will be bought back plus another 30,000 on top of that, which would be represent the premium on the share price. So that's pretty straightforward. And again, the equity offer document will go into more detail. So the project is actually live now for investment. We actually had the project view deal would have been last Thursday. And then we drive. Isn't that right? Was it last Thursday? I think it was. Was it?
It was.
Yeah. Was it Tuesday or Thursday?
Tuesday,
it was
Thursday.
We were view deal on the Thursday. Yeah, we went view deal to let people see it, and then went live really quickly after on the Tuesday.
That's right. Yeah.
Normally we take 2 or 3 weeks of a build up and I call pumping the well. Because you're well known on the platform and you've obviously had 2 successful deals, one had just paid back. We went ahead and just went sort of straight to market. So some people are still only actually realizing it's actually live for investment. But we're already at it's actually over 70% now. I'm looking at it today. I think it's 33 investors. So you can go to our site and see where it's at. And obviously the minimum raise is 100,000, which we're literally almost there. And then see where we get then near to the 200. So that is where we are there. It's important that I direct people towards the equity offer document. So if you haven't already, you could register on the platform. And obviously Tina's give you a very brief overview today, but Target 5 have produced a detailed equity offer document, as we call it. And you can access it from the thumbnail on the homepage, and then there's some pitch pages that cover a brief overview, financials, team, and then there's a form where you can see the questions that have been asked. And then you can, once you've registered, you can actually download the equity offer document. It gives you a lot more detail, the location, the comparables, a copy of some of the key paperwork, documents, etc. are all in that. And that's where you want to be reading before making a final decision whether to invest or not. So Dal, any questions arrive in, Dal?
Yeah, we've got a few. So first question, are there any parts of the project carried out under permitted development? If not, what is the current view of the planning risk?
So both elements. So the conversion of the HMO from 5 to 6 bedrooms is under permitted. So no approval needed for that at all. So that can get cracking straight away. The ground floor conversion of the rear of the commercial space is under a version of permitted development called Class MA, which is where you have to apply for prior notification approval. So you do have to put in to the local authority that you are going to be doing it, but the onus is on them to say why you can't, rather than you to say why you should, if that makes sense. We're expecting that to be a fairly straightforward. I mean, I say that through gritted teeth because we have had some challenges. We did originally go for a slightly more ambitious scheme on this, which was rejected, which is why we've now gone for something safer.
Right, thank you. From the track record of T5's 300, 400 development projects, approximately how many were successful? Have there been any unsuccessful ones? Where there are significant delays to the project, were there significant delays and or the return to the investors was significantly below what was originally expected? If so, how many were unsuccessful? What was the main reasons they were unsuccessful, and how are you minimizing the risk of those consequences for the current project?
So on West Buildings, the raise which we've paid back, I mean, there are always challenges with every development, and I think anybody thinking of investing in anything, I think, needs to go into that knowing that there could be delays, and they are always unforeseens. I think in the end we were a month late in returning the initial investment level on West Buildings, but we actually returned the total investment earlier because the original plan was to do it over 5 years, but because of market positives, we actually chose to sell that project rather than keep it. So that there were delays on the project, but we still managed to pay back within time, really. I think actually the delay was around working out what we were going to give back because we've changed the strategy on it. In terms of the 350 plus developments, I couldn't give you a percentage off the top of my head, but yes, of course, there are ones that have gone wrong, and anybody that tells you that there isn't is lying. So there are, but I can count on one hand, I would suggest, the amount that haven't reached, less than one hand, probably 3 that didn't make us a profit that we felt was appropriate for the workload that went in, but still made a profit. I know of one that Andy did that didn't make a profit, but we had some unknown Japanese knotweed on the site and it was a new build. So that caused us some significant delays. In terms of mitigating risk, one of our strategies that we do around the selection criteria on a property is that we look at what those risks are. And being brutally honest about Aldwick Road, we've sort of been through that process. We've actually owned this building for a year, and we've been through a number of planning processes, and which has led us to where we are today. And as I mentioned before, this scheme that we're proposing now is actually the least risky scheme, and that's why it wasn't brought to the platform before, because we wouldn't bring any of our more risky schemes to a platform like this. We always try and bring something where we feel we can offer value in terms of learning, but also that we aren't going to be in a situation where we're putting too much risk in front of some first-time investors. And that's why we've gone for the permitted development and the prior notification route. And the other thing is that it's a mixed building. We've already got some people interested in letting it. There's a lot of ticks in these boxes at the moment on this one. But as I spoke to someone earlier on about a development that we're looking at in Worthing, I don't know what's going to happen when that builder pulls that ceiling down. I don't know what those roof trusses might look like. I don't know what the drainage is going to look like when we get the cameras down there until we get on site and get stuck in. But what we do, and hopefully David and Dale will allude to this, is we do keep people up to date with those challenges through the investor updates and bring you along for the ride. I mean, some of them we have to buckle up for, but that is also the benefit of having our years and years of experience and having had those ones that have gone wrong, is that we do know how to pivot and to make decisions that if there is a challenge that comes up, we can go, right, well, this is what we think we should do because we did it on X, Y, and Z project before. We know pretty much what that outcome will be if we do it. Whereas if you're dealing with some more first-time developers, they're sort of feeling their way through it as well, which is a challenge. So
I think if I just add one thing as well, for those that may not be aware, we talk about risk mitigation, which I think is one of your strengths as a development team. For those that don't know, Andy Babayan, Tina's business partner, is an ex-British Army bomb disposal officer. So when it comes to risk management and mitigation of risk, I would suggest that Andy knows a thing or two about that in the real world of life and death, and is able to bring some of that into how he looks at property and understanding what is the risk.
He also has a master's in risk management. That is what his degree is. So it does it does make you think about the what ifs. We call it the what ifs. If this happens, what are we going to do? And sometimes they blindside you. As I said, I'm going to be brutally honest. There's no point in pretending that developing is easy. It really isn't. Sometimes they blindside you, but you have to sit down and pick apart what the problem is and look for the solution. And that's what we do really well. And that's why we've had the success we've had.
Okay, no, that's brilliant. I'm just conscious of time, Dal. Any more questions we can get in before we finish?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Tina. Has current increasing prices on the materials and labour been factored in?
Yes, absolutely. I had a meeting just yesterday with the builder we've got lined up to make sure that the figures that he's given us are still achievable. He tells me they are. So we will continue to monitor that. I mean, he did caveat it with he gets the prices from the suppliers with a time frame attached to them. So I guess what I would say is the sooner we can raise, the sooner we can get on site, and the sooner we can get the materials built. So, that's it is a reality in the market at the moment. We're having to keep a handle on it. But equally, because of the volume that we do, our builders therefore have quite significant buying power, and we can buy at bulk across a number of projects.
Thank you. One more here. What is the reason that the property has been or is being brought at below market value? For example, is the building currently decapitated?
Yeah, so it was an empty unit and the HMO was not complying, so they couldn't rent it out anymore. So it wasn't producing a commercial rent, so it couldn't be valued at commercial level. But on top of that, it's because of our connections in the local area with local agents. We get the sort of heads up because I've got 25 years now nearly in the industry, so they give us a call because they know we can do it. So we tend to get the heads up before it goes to market, before the price gets pushed up. And we have owned this a year as well, so prices have come up in that time frame too.
Thank you.
Okay, any more, Dal? Is that all the questions have been asked?
That's all the questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Some really good questions there, and they'll provide value for the forum members as well, so we can get those posted there. So if anyone has any questions about the Leo crowdfunding side of things or about the project, you can reach out to Dal. He is our investment portfolio manager. He's the point of contact for investors who are looking at projects. So you can see there, Dal at leocrowdfunding.com. You can reach out to him. You can put support email as well, can get us. If you want to see other projects that we've done, if you want to have a look at the other projects that Tina and Andy have done, you'll find them at leocrowdfunding.com. There was a West Buildings and also a Duke Street. And you'll be able to, again, look at those, compare them to this one, and see exactly what they've done. So I would just encourage anyone, if you haven't already, get on to and download the equity offer document. And if I go back up to this slide here, for those that want to invest, this raise does finish on Tuesday. So it really is kind of, if you want to invest, now's the time to do it. If it's not for you, absolutely fine. but we want to get this webinar on today just to give investors an opportunity to ask any last minute questions they have. But it really is kind of now invest or don't. That's where we are. So you can go on to our homepage. If you haven't registered already, you have to register first. You can download the offer document, and then you can make your pledge from there. Just to remind people, you can actually pledge and then move funds, at a later date. Once it reaches its minimum, which we anticipate will probably be today or tomorrow, then it's a successful raise. And then there'll be a 2-week period where there's a shareholder agreement issued for review, and a final one issued for acceptance. And that's the point that you need to have your funds then in your e-wallet. So you can actually make a pledge today just by selecting the bank transfer option, and then transferring your funds, early next week or something like that, just to make that clear. So I think, Dal, that's everything, is it? Anything I've left out?
No, that's it.
There we are. So Tina, any last minute comments, Tina?
No, just any other questions, obviously, put them through to Dal and I'll answer them, of course.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll let you get back on the road then, back into Brighton, along the country lanes, and Dal and Alice sit back in behind our desk once again and get on with the work.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Then. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.